Microphone is live, so the broadcast is going.
And I just received, Scott, I just received another request to address the board. Do you guys want a copy of it? Do you want me to run and make copies real quick for everybody, or? So I have that one that I already made copies for.
Before.
I have this one too.
Oh, that one.
No, it's his wife.
Oh,
So she wants to address the board also.
it's just guys. So both people must have this like. Yeah. It's gonna just be the personal. Are you HR? That's what it was. I'm not HR.
I'll try to be good. Can't promise. I said your person can give you a dirty.
So this.
Yeah, see, that right there is what I did.
Right. I just messaged solution. Nope, that's you. Right. Ignore your text on us tonight.
I don't know how that works either. That's just a copy of the,
Right. That's.
I'm guessing that everybody does that. I wasn't
I'm
sure.
still like.
It's a code of ethics, right? It's
Yeah.
just You ready, Mr. Thompson?
I am ready.
All right. Set up here. It is 6 o'clock. We are going to begin the meeting. Can we get a roll call?
Hold on just a second.
Oh, I will wait.
You started it.
Yeah. It is 6 o'clock. We will begin our meeting. Can we get a roll call, please? Morris Morgan.
Robert Murray.
Sky Davis. Can we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so our first item is reorganization and our annual meeting. A, election of chairman. B, election of vice chairman. C, election of treasurer. D, election of board clerk and custodian of record. Item A, election of chairman. Do we have a motion?
Motion to, well, you should be on charge and,
I think you have to say my name.
motion for Sky Davis.
Uh,
Chair.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion on the topic? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved. Election of vice chair. Do we have a motion for the election of vice chair? Don't everybody jump at once.
Nominate Rob to be the vice chair since he's sitting next to me.
We have a nomination for vice chair. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the topic? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Motion is approved.
just because he doesn't know what he's getting into.
Yeah, no, that's.
Election of treasurer.
It's a good money.
I nominate, or I motion from, Morris Morgan.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the topic? All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion is approved. Board clerk and custodian of record. I move that we continue to have Melissa as our board clerk and the custodian of record.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the topic? All All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion is approved. Item E, establish signatories. Lydia Calloway, Stephanie Korn, Superintendent Randy Thompson. As chairman is remaining and treasurer are remaining the same. That would be myself, Scott Davis, and Morris Morgan. For general fund, Principal Jackie Johnson on student accounts. Do we have a motion?
I move that we establish signatories as read and listed in the agenda.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
Do we have a motion and a second? Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved. We all need to sign our code of ethics. Melissa,
Yes.
I've got a purple pen. Is that okay to you? Or does it need to be a black or
I
blue
think it
pen?
needs to be black or blue. Those are the
We're gonna have a
reasons.
black
That's
pen.
blue.
Thank you.
I'm not positive, but
I'm a
Purple
rookie.
is our school color.
I know, right? It is the 11th, right?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson. Pass these to Melissa. Thank you. All right. Item G, approve or deny the appointment of Amy White as board counsel.
I move that we retain Amy White as board counsel.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved. Establish board meeting dates. If we continue with the second Tuesday, then it would be today, January 11th, 2022, February 8th, March 8th, wow, that never happened. April 12th, May 10th, June 14th, July 12th, August 9th, September 13th, October 11th, November 8th, and December 13th of 2022.
We have a problem.
Yes, sir.
Today's date was approved last year,
Correct.
and we have to approve next year's January meeting, otherwise it won't be on here.
You are correct, sir.
Secondly, we also have to decide which meeting is in Longmont.
Yes, we do.
okay, so. Would be January
10th
10th.
of 23. And this past year, we did, I believe,
July.
we did July.
Yeah.
in Longmont.
In Loman.
I thought that you guys decided that that would be a better choice than what you've been doing in the past.
I think we should do it in May because it's the end of the year, and that way we could also walk and Gary could show us or not Gary, sorry, Dave, could walk with us and show us maybe any improvements that they're planning on working on over the course of the summer, because that's when they do a lot of their work up there in Loman. Does anybody have any?
Put it in May and see if it is a motion.
All right.
I move that we set our board meeting dates as follows: Tuesday, February the 8th, 2020, Tuesday, March the 8th, 2022, Tuesday, April the 12th, 2022. Tuesday, May the 10th, 2022 in Loman. Tuesday, June 14th, 2022. Tuesday, July 12th, 2022. Tuesday, August the 9th, 2022. Tuesday, September the 13th, 2022. Tuesday, October the 11th, 2022. Tuesday, November the 8th, 2022. Tuesday, December the 13th, 2022. And Tuesday, January the 10th, 2023.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the topic? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved. Uh, Set notice calendar for, we have a set notice calendar for the 2022
Oh, yes, that was
and
a
posting locations in the school foyer, Garden Valley Library, Garden Valley Post Office, and keeping the Loman Ranger Station as a,
I fax it to them,
okay.
but I don't drive it out there.
Could we include the $20,000 notice board, electronic notice board we have at our school? At least we'd be giving out a little bit more valuable information on that board.
I agree with that.
Would you want just like school board meeting and the date and time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like it's on here,
Yeah.
school board meeting Tuesday, February the 8th. It could be when those notices go out, they can go in there.
Yeah. So,
I'm
yeah.
fine with that.
Do they get up, does that board get updated?
It does. We
Regularly?
try to update it every week with ball games and things like that, so.
So I'll just figure out when the dates are and get it in to whoever does that.
You can do that.
Do we want to include that, that notice on the radio as an announcement, community announcement?
We can, but it doesn't need, I wouldn't
by law.
recommend doing it as a set post of notice, because like if the power were out or something happened at the radio station and we couldn't, and we made it an official post of notice and we couldn't post it there, then we couldn't do the meeting until we could get it on the radio.
Gotcha.
So it can be done if we want to give that information to the radio station so that they can
Right.
get that out
Because I'm
as a
doing,
courtesy.
I'm doing all
definitely.
the other
But
events.
to post it as an official post of notice, no, we don't want to do that. That would,
The other issue that it raises is just before it comes from the school, it goes through and it gets to the radio station. If they forget, that's on us, even though they've forgotten. Because we have no control to make sure that happens. And if it doesn't happen, it's on the school board. And we have no control whether it happens or not.
Okay.
I mean,
That
that's
makes total
why it's
sense.
not.
I'm just, so it wouldn't necessarily be an official,
correct.
it would be in addition to. as a-
And if I'm-
Because I know a lot of people listen to the community announcements on the radio station.
And if I'm not mistaken, we did the same thing with the Loman Ranger Station. It was as a courtesy, because for the same reason, if for some reason we couldn't get the fax to go through, it's something we do as a courtesy, but it's not on the official.
Okay.
That way it doesn't hold us back from having that
So the
meeting.
Loman Ranger Station shouldn't be on that list?
That should.
It should or should not?
Should.
But only as a courtesy, right?
It's on here. We mail it to them and they put it out.
But last year we did this for the exact same reason that we just said about the radio station. We made it so that it was just a courtesy, not a.
I'm going to caution you to leave it on here, because I don't want to alienate the people from.
Oh,
our
no, no,
district.
I'm not saying not to add, like, we can add the Loman Ranger Station and the radio station as a courtesy, but not as an official post of notice, otherwise.
Well, if I can, Mr. Chairman, what's the time limit on by law for it to be posted? Is it,
48 hours?
For a
48
regular
hours.
meeting, it's 48 hours.
so Sunday night at 6, it has to be posted?
However,
Um,
at.
I mean, I guess we
meeting,
can
were
always, somebody can
cautioned-
always drive it up there. We usually post it Friday.
But we were cautioned to keep it at the regular. We always post it Fridays by 6 PM. And so,
Right, but my point is, we're gonna have to have someone check the Logan Ranger Station, to make sure it's posted.
oh, if it's on here.
Right. I think that's what you're trying to say, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah,
Right,
I-
yeah, so we
So if we leave it
We
on
can
here.
keep it
then
on
we
there.
have to
Yeah,
make sure that
we
happens.
just need to make sure that
like
it
you
gets
said,
posted at the
Morgan,
ranger
if
station,
they don't
because if it
post it, that's
doesn't,
on us.
right.
Okay. So is that what you all want to do?
And that's fine, but then we need a phone call to the ranger station, and
Yeah.
Okay,
if they can't post it,
Need to
then we
verify
need
it.
to have somebody drive up a copy so that it gets posted in that official
okay,
spot.
I can do that.
Do we have a motion?
I move that we set the notice calendar for 2022 and posting of the board agenda locations as the school foyer, Garden Valley Library, Garden Valley Post Office, Lomond Ranger Station, and the reader board at the school.
I
Yep.
second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the topic? All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion is approved. My apologies for the confusion on that. Item J, approve and adopt our agenda. Our consent agenda. Item A, approval of minutes from December 14th, 2021, regular school board meeting. January 5th, 2022, special school board meeting. The treasurer's report and the payment of bills and journal entries.
Actually, I think you do have to make a motion to approve and adopt this agenda.
Yeah.
Because you haven't done that yet. And I only put it that way because that's how it was on last year's.
So approve and adopt our agenda.
I move that we approve and adopt the agenda as written.
Do we have a second?
A second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion is approved. Consent agenda. Approval of minutes, December 14th, 2021, regular school board meeting, January 5th, 2022, special school board meeting, the treasurer's report, and payment of bills and journal entries. Do we have a motion? Oh,
I move that we approve the agenda as read and written.
we have a motion. Do we have a second?
A second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the topic? All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion is approved. Delegations and reports. Our superintendent report from Mr. Randy Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be very brief tonight. I know we have a lot on the agenda. Just wanted, our enrollment remains steady. From last month, we're at 297 total students. That includes 9 students in Lowman and 13 pre-K students. Our attendance year to date is 93%. That remains steady from last month as well. From our COVID numbers, we have not had any new cases in students or staff. The numbers remain 28 total school year to date, or 9%, 9.39% of our student body have had COVID, and 5 total staff, or 8.92% of our staff have had COVID. So it's been about 3 months and a week since we've had a case, a positive case. Okay? I attended a Central District Health meeting this week. Omicron is the talk, but I pointed out to the panel, and this is all the districts that, you know, from what I'm seeing on it, it's very similar to a head cold or flu-like symptoms. While it may be more contagious, we're not seeing, you know, I asked them, do we have any evidence showing an uptick in hospitalizations or deaths or anything? And they did not have anything. So, you know, we are planning to keep the doors open and keep school going. And, you know, we will obviously adjust as necessary based on what happens. There's a lot in the media right now, but we'll continue pressing forward. An update on our baseball team. that was approved last month. We began fundraising. There's quite a bit of expense in starting a team, getting all the equipment, and some of the, not only the bats and the protective equipment, helmets, uniforms, but some of the equipment like a pitching machine and batting cage and things like that that you need to conduct practices. And that's somewhere in the neighborhood of about $17,000 to $18,000 to get started. We reached out to several businesses, and I'm pleased to report that as of now, we've raised almost $29,000, just $28,900. So, been very pleased with the response from the community. I want to give a shout out to Pay It Forward. They really came forward and were very generous to us, and we are very appreciative. And I met with them the other day. But if you see them, please thank them. So we, with the extra money, we're looking at the possibility of building a field out here in the open area, just beyond the football field. That was one of our long-term goals, but now that we've got some funds, we will look at it this spring. I will be approaching the board about approval to do something there. I'm just now starting to get some figures together, so I'll try to bring something to the February meeting where we can talk more specifics about what's needed and what we can do to get the program running. But just want to give you an update, and that's all I have for tonight. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Does anybody have any follow-up questions for Mr. Thompson?
I thought that there was talk of using the field at the community church.
We are. They have agreed to let us use the field there. Obviously we've got to work around their schedules and all.
Right.
And we're going to try to share the field here with the girls softball team. If we are able to construct one out here, we wouldn't be able to use it until later in the season because we've got to wait for snow to clear. So we've got to build it. We've got to get some grass seeded. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. So that would be, we'd be fortunate to maybe get a couple games in at the end of the year on it. It's kind of what we would do. But we want to, since we have some funds available, we want to try and get that started. But yes, the community church has been very generous in offering to let us use their fields.
When you come to the board with that proposal of where to place the field, can you also have with it the documentation for our general plan for the facility? Because we have been talking about the capacity of the students at the school.
Okay.
So, when making that decision, we have to see what else is available.
Okay. We'll make myself a note about it.
Would that potentially impact where we were talking about putting an additional building?
That's why.
Yeah, that's why you're asking.
It won't impact where we're planning to put the modular unit, but
Right.
if we did go with another building, we talked maybe looking at a steel building or something, that we really haven't picked out a site for that, but that, obviously would go and be considered there. So.
Is that all from Mr. Thompson? All right. Item number 7, community forum on agenda items, reference policies 1520, 4105, and 4105F. Public comment will be taken from the public on matters scheduled on the agenda. The chairman may interrupt or terminate an individual statement when it is too lengthy, personally directed, abusive, obscene, repetitive, or irrelevant. A person wishing to speak on an agenda item should fill out a request to appear before the board form, 4105F, and submit it to the board clerk before the meeting begins. These forms will be available at the sign-in desk or can be found on gbsd.net, policy 4105F. Please email these forms to Melissa Smith at msmith@gbsd.net with your completed 4105F form in order to participate in the community forum. We do have two.
Yes,
Just
I
two?
received one
Okay.
just before the meeting.
Eric Willoughby and then Julie Willoughby. Eric, you are up first.
The purpose of me trying to put this on an agenda item, the impasse that we were at has pretty much been remedied between ourselves and the administration, and I want to applaud that effort. There was never intended to be any animosity, but I felt like at the time that the whole philosophy behind schools is to provide for the students up to a point. The whole issue revolved around, it began back at the beginning of wrestling season when my kid, Nathan Willoughby, and I think y'all all know who he is. He's known all over the country also. The positive and negatives of a school district like this, I feel, is there's a big, huge list of positive. Our kids enjoy a private school environment, but also it comes with some negatives. The smaller schools can't provide sometimes the resources needed to address some of the issues that might arise. That being said, Nathan is a wrestler. He also plays football, but wrestling is a different sport than the team sports. It's a one-on-one competition. Because of the size and the resources of this school, Nathan has outgrown the ability for that program to help him with his college goals. He has already been contacted by many, many D1, D2 colleges, and plus the Class 3s. He's already in talks with them other than the solicitation. So with that being said, the issue came up is that at the beginning of the year that we would have liked to have taken at our expense, no resources to the school. Nathan has been going to Supplé, which is world renowned all over the planet for training wrestlers. It's been an expense between $600 and $800 a month for our kid to go there the last 3 years. We are not asking the school district in any form or context to foot the bill on that. What we asked for at the beginning of the year, the wrestling program here has 5 practices a week. We were asking, and this was brought up last year, so that nobody was blindsided with it. We were asking for 2 practices to take place at Supplé.
30 seconds, Eric.
Huh?
30 seconds.
30 seconds. Okay, then we'll continue this with her because that's the way we're going to do it. As you can see, going forward, I want the question, I want the answer to this is we have resolved it for this year, but I don't want to be back up here next year with the same question. Nathan can alternative wrestle those 2 days for wrestling practice because he is in weights class here. That wrestling coach teaches weights class. So Nathan, this frees up resources for the other kids. Julie, take it over.
Yeah.
So that frees up resources for the other kids that are in the wrestling program to have one-on-one with the coaches. The problem is our wrestling team doesn't carry over year to year very much. So every year they get new kids in at starting level. Nathan is not starting level. Nathan is a 6-year wrestler who wrestles, as Eric says, on the Team Idaho national team. So to put him back in that class would be like taking a 12th grader and putting him in a 5th grade, 6th grade class and expecting him to learn something. It's not there. And we've asked to have somebody come in of his level, of his magnitude to train him. There's no one available for that. So when we take him back to Boise, he's wrestling world-class kids. We have it on those papers for you. Kids that have won in Russia, they tour the country, they go over there to the European bloc for 4 months. These kids are big kids like him, 265-pound kids. And some of them wrestle for their high schools. They're allowed to go back into Supplé and wrestle. Their coaches appreciate it. They want to see a banner in their gym saying that this child won state, won districts. So we don't understand why Nathan is being hobbled by not being provided with the resources that we need. School's too small. We can't pay for that kind of additional coaching. We get it. We'll pay for it. We'll make sure it happens. But we want Nathan here 3 times a week being trained here, and 2 times a week getting the training that he needs to make him a college wannabe wrestler, somebody that they're coming after. And none of this interferes with IHSA rules, because Ty Jones sits in our supply parent room and watches these kids. So he knows what's going on. As long as Nathan is not in a competitive match with another kid that he could wrestle in Idaho matches, as long as he's not compensated financially, there's no rule against it.
20 seconds, Julie.
So what we're asking, please, if this was any of your kids, would you want them hobbled, or would you want them to have the best opportunities they could have? Thank you.
Thank you. I believe that's all that we
That's all
have
for
for,
yeah.
for community forum. Thank you so much, Eric and Julie Yodi, for speaking with us today. Item 8, new business. Discuss possible changes to the parent and student athlete handbook. Mr. Thompson and I believe Mr. Chandler are.
Yeah, so Mike, if you'll come over, and I'll try to kind of sum up a little bit, what the Willoughbys have brought, before the board tonight. Back before wrestling season began, they had requested to have Nathan miss a couple of practices a week to go down to Super, as I mentioned. And there's nothing in our handbook that specifically addresses this situation. So there's no policy on it, okay? So it will be left up to the coach's discretion to run their, their program and their sport. So the coach had some concerns about Nathan missing 2 days of practice a week, and the coach did not agree to that, plan. So that's kind of where we got to. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're spot on.
And so they decided for Nathan to just go to Souffle and not wrestle here. And then I was approached about a week ago, I think, or so, about Nathan coming back on the team. And at this point, and so we do have something in our handbook that addresses a student coming on at this point in the season. And this is under the conditions in the coach's handbook. I'm just going to read this to the board so you're aware of it. Item 12 says, students may not come out for any sport when 25% of the regular season contests have been played. There's a period after that sentence. Okay, so that's one rule or whatever that we have. All right. I think, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, I wasn't here, but this was put in a couple of years.
2 years ago.
Okay.
They're 20, 21, 21, 19, 20, like
Right.
your school year 19, 20.
So, one of my jobs as a superintendent is to follow policy, so I always go to the policy first when I'm facing the situation. So I talked to Eric and we talked about it. I said, let me look at the policy, and I did. And when I looked at where we are in the wrestling season, 25% had already gone by, and I expressed it there, okay? We also looked at the second part of this, number 12, and it says students must compete in 75% of the regular season contests to be eligible for postseason play, period. So they have to compete in at least 3/4 of the regular season to be eligible for postseason. However, for that rule, it says verified illness, injury, or family emergencies will be excused when considering this 75% participation in regular season contests. And then it talks about transfer students to be considered on case by case. Okay? So we looked at that. So from the standpoint of Nathan being eligible for postseason play because of a shoulder injury, he would he would meet the 75%. But then I went back to the 25% rule. And since there's no caveat about injury or anything with the 25% rule, it just says if 25% of the season has already gone by, he wouldn't be eligible. So that's when I expressed to them, I can't let him play because of that policy. Okay. Then Saturday night, it came to my attention that a basketball player had been allowed to join the basketball team after more than 25% of the season had gone by. Wasn't aware of this, Mike. It happened. Okay. So, in being fair, I called Eric and said, I'm not going to hold your child to this rule if another child doesn't have the rule. So, I said that was a mistake we made as a school, and because of that, I'm going to make an exception to let your child wrestle. So that's what he's talking about. This has been resolved. So, going forward, and I think that's what they're asking us to look at these rules going forward. Is it May when we normally review the handbooks and the policies and all? Mike and I will have a recommendation for the board as to what policy change we think we should make. Okay. We didn't come with a recommendation tonight because we really need to study this issue. We want to reach out. Our wrestling coach is already reaching out to some of the other schools to kind of see what their policies are. And, then we'll come with a recommendation. I don't know, correct me, is there any other thing you were asking us to consider?
No, that was it, and here's some information about how the other schools, and you can pass it down, address that. So this particular issue has come down to, and once again, I'm not being vindictive. This has come down to a coach's attitude.
I don't know that I would agree with that, Eric.
I'm gonna caution you that this isn't open forum anymore.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
sorry. So, the coach made a decision and.
Question.
Question.
You might know, you might not know. Why did the coach decide no?
He felt like, and you correct me if I'm wrong, I wish he could be here tonight, he's sick, unfortunately, but, he felt like it would be disruptive to his,
Right. Yeah, and that's a lot of it. It's, his program. And, if you're only coming to half the practices, it wouldn't be fair to the other athletes is how he's looking at it. So it's just like was stated, there's 5 practices a week, which normally isn't true because they usually have 2 matches a week. So a lot of times you might have 3 practices, and if 2 of them are in Boise and 1 here, I think it all just comes down to, the coach's rules, his team rules. Because each coach has them a little different as far as if you miss practice or late or whatever. But, his thought is that everyone should be treated the same, and we must be at practice every day if it's not excused or injury. So that's what I understand from talking to him, so.
And we allow coaches to make those decisions. However, just for clarity, with Nathan doing what he was doing, there's no violation of policy.
School policy or?
Not to this point, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can either of you just tell me about the injury? Something was mentioned about an injury.
From my understanding, it was a torn labrum,
Yeah.
something in the shoulder. He had surgery.
Okay.
Torn 3 ligaments in the shoulder.
No, can we? Yeah, I'm sorry at this point, we only gonna have the discussion here.
I thought you were asking for
No, I am asking for clarity, but I can only
He
ask.
did have surgery.
Okay.
And, he has an appointment on January the 19th with his surgeon, doctor, and we expect him to be fully released then to be able to participate at that point.
Okay. Next thing, IHSA rules. Our handbook follows the Idaho High School Sports Association rules, correct?
It does to a
Some
point,
way,
Bob.
somewhat.
Yeah, we can be much more strict than they are. And I have
Okay.
talked to Ty Jones, I called and talked to him,
All right.
and it's kind of along the line that, yes, he's legal by our standards, but each school has their set of rules, so.
So what you just said is legal by our standards,
No, by IHSA
okay?
standards.
But not by our handbook.
Not if you follow that.
The
by what it says.
25% rule is what he didn't meet.
Okay,
It's that
but
period.
the injury rule would take that away because you can't practice or participate with an injury, especially if there's surgery and you have a doctor's.
And the injury specifically says in that rule that injury, family emergency excuse when considering the 75% participation, okay? So there's two separate rules here. There's a 25% rule and a 75% rule. Now, something we may want to do is rewrite this handbook going forward, but as written.
This,
The
I
injury
understand.
precludes.
yeah, and
precludes
I
the
also
25.
understand what you're saying, Mr. Thompson, but look, you're
This is-
saying because
this
there's a
is one.
period, it's two rules. It's not,
No,
it's one rule.
Number 12.
Okay,
So
so you're saying I
He is
misinterpreted the handbook?
he is
Yeah,
legal.
it's not
You've
two rules, it's one
you've
rule.
misinterpreted it. It, according to the way this is written, it is legal. Everything is fine. Those two coincide together.
Covered by
One,
the injury itself.
yeah. The injury on that also applies to that.
I respectfully disagree, but, you know, I will abide by what I'm told to do. I
Thank you.
promise you that.
And then,
But,
and then moving forward, I do think we should adjust it and make it clear so that, and
No, that's all.
And it's of my opinion, this is, guys, you don't have to take that into account when you make a proposal to the board, but this is my opinion that, anytime you can get kids to come out for anything extracurricular, it is good. So I don't personally like rules that make it so kids can't come out. There's a lot of reasons why a student might not come out. And you never know those things all the time. I mean, I coach football. I had a couple of kids that didn't come out for football, and 3 weeks into the season, I run into them at the market. I ask them why they're not playing football for me. And it's because they couldn't afford cleats. So I told them, I don't care what sport it is. I don't care if it's volleyball, football, basketball, wrestling. You're doing a sport, you come find Sky. I will sponsor your shoes and buy your shoes for whatever. And they joined the football team. You know, luckily for us in football, that 25% rule, it's a little further out to practice for so long before we play any games.
Right.
But basketball, I mean, they're practicing and they're playing. And wrestling is the same way when it hits basketball and wrestling season. So we've passed that 25% in, you know, those. But you just never know some of these things why kids don't come out. I understand the spirit of the rule is trying to discourage kids from joining just to go on the trips to districts and
Well, you know,
go
and
do a
this way
state
it was
run.
written and put in there because of 3 years ago, the week before a state playoff game with, we're paying expenses, rooms, meals, we have 2 people wanting to join a team.
Yeah,
And I didn't think that was right, but we had no policy against it at that
yeah.
time. So that's why that was put in.
And I'm not saying that you have to take that portion out about the, you know, them being able to, but then to be able to join the team. And I think,
Well, we have discussed the percentage
Yeah.
may shoot, you know, if it's 50% or.
right. Anyway, that's thank you for,
But I agree, I see what you mean.
but it sounds like you guys are committed to figuring out the right
We
thing.
never
So-
We want to make it right.
I
agree
appreciate-
with the 25%. We
Yeah.
said that's how it's written.
Right.
Right.
And,
I appreciate you guys'
and I will,
willingness to get it right.
before we write a new rule, I will make sure our legal counsel looks it over because I think as it's written, it's very, anyway.
Because I
It needs to
think,
be-
I
it
wish
needs to be
legal
cleaned
counsel
up
would
as it's
have
written.
it, so.
Yeah. All righty, thank you.
So my understanding is that this issue has been resolved
For this year.
For this year.
for this year.
I just don't want
The
it
comment that I
conflict.
want to make about that is two wrongs, the justification for saying, yes, I don't like. just because a mistake was made, something was done wrong, there was a violation or an oversight in one area, does not justify us to do it in another area. Just because the mistake was made in basketball doesn't justify that doesn't justify us saying yes to Nathan. Now, that being said, it's been resolved. I'm not asking it to be withdrawn, but that's just my comment. We don't do that. Just because, there was an oversight in one area, we don't say, okay, we have to continue it. That's all that I have to say about this matter for now.
Is that all for Mr. Thompson and Mr. Chairman? All right, thank you, gentlemen. Item B, discuss and possibly approve the resignation of Ashley Albright, school counselor. Did she turn in a resignation
Well, it's
letter?
in your packet.
What's that?
I don't believe you've made it into your packets.
Okay, it's
I did not get a copy
It's
of
right
it.
here.
here.
Did I have a different package?
No, that's not it.
Okay. Well, I have a copy of it.
That's a different letter you're looking at.
There's a copy of it.
From, what's that? Yeah, I know. From Ashley M. Albright, to whom it may concern, it is with regret that I provide my resignation from the position of school counselor for Garden Valley School District, effective at the end of the 21-22 school contract year. I'm grateful for having the opportunity to serve as a member of this wonderful organization and community, and I wish the best for all in the future. Do we have a motion?
I move that we approve the resignation of Ashley Albright as school counselor.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Just discussion, I don't see on here that we advertise it. I know it's quite a few months out, but I don't see anything on the agenda to post the vacancy.
It's my understanding if we're replacing a position, we don't need board approval to advertise and hire. Am I mistaken on that? If we're adding a new position.
That was my understanding as well, that it only has to be on here if it's a newly created position.
Right.
But if it's a position that was already there, it doesn't actually have to be on the agenda and approved by the board. That was my understanding. We talked about this with Amy White, with a previous agenda.
Well, it'll be in our board policies. I can pull the policies, but.
Okay.
We have a motion and discussion, or a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Nay. Motion is approved. C, discuss and possibly approve a resolution of school district number 71, Boise County, Idaho, calling for a special election to be held for the purpose of submitting the qualified electors of the district the proposition of authorizing a supplemental levy. It is of my opinion that we can't function without a supplemental levy. I believe that we should move forward on adjusting and submitting a proposition. Mr. Morgan.
As a school board, we can only provide information. We had a special meeting dealing with this. Just as for information, there's a lot of information out there, but this is how schools are forced or have now to raise funds by the local taxpayers because early in 2000, the Idaho legislature changed the rules so that they could come out and say, we've reduced taxes. But all they did was move the tax for schooling to the local school districts. And since then, schools have then needed to run supplemental levies. Secondly, the state does not reimburse us for all of our expenses. There are certain areas in our school where the expenses or the expenses, the percentage of expenses exceed that of schools in bigger districts just because we are smaller. But we still have, a teacher for every class, even though our class size is smaller. But also there are other expenses where the legislature would mandate or federal government would mandate that we do certain things, but they do not fund us to do that. They call unfunded mandates. They'll pass a law, but they will not make funds available. And so supplemental levies then is how schools are funded now, partly.
And I'd also like to point out that I've been approached several times and asked why we don't use COVID funds instead of a supplemental levy. We are not allowed to use the COVID funds that we receive towards anything that was already an expenditure. So we can't use the COVID money to pay our teachers. We can't use the COVID money for expenses on employees outside of teachers. So there's a lot, anything that's a line item on the normal budget. It can't be other than outside of the learning loss. It can't, that COVID money can't be earmarked for that. So yes, we have been spending this COVID money and it looks like we're just spending money left and right. Well, we're kind of spending money because we're being told to spend this money. But we can't spend it on the things to make it so that we don't, to offset a supplemental levy or to offset the cost. Yeah, anything in the general expenses, it can't offset that. So I just want that to go out there in case there's, I think there is confusion in the community when they hear that we're spending those COVID dollars. We're spending them, but it's not like we're spending them on this nice, shiny, bright stuff. And instead of paying our bills, we're not allowed to use it to pay those bills. Do we have a motion or any further discussion?
Do we need to put in a number over here?
Yes.
I don't have those forms with me.
Did I make a copy of the wrong one?
Now, this is the blank one.
So
I did, I made a copy of the wrong
there's
one.
one written up from our bond attorney that has the amount of 500,000 in it, but we can change
That was
the
my
amount. We can put what amount that the board decides.
It's not.
Yeah, I made a copy of the wrong one.
That's the correct one now.
So,
The one you sent out by mail by email is correct.
But I made copies
Yes.
of the wrong one. That's what it is. I had two of them in my file and I must have made copies of the wrong one. So my apologies.
I read the one online, but
That's the.
That's the one
the
that's
one there.
online. So I emailed out the correct one and then I made copies of the incorrect one.
The only difference between the incorrect one and the correct one is the amount, correct?
Yes. And
Or is it verbiage?
the incorrect one also on the very bottom says the average of blank per 100,000
Okay,
on the very last paragraph on the first page.
yeah. It's got a,
It shouldn't be blank. It should say, I believe, 64.
64.
oh, well,
64.
when you send out by email, it has a blank.
Okay, then the one I sent out by email was also incorrect.
So this one says estimated average annual cost to the taxpayer on the proposed levy is a tax of $64 per $100,000 of taxable assessed value per year for 2 years based on current conditions. Currently, the district collects an annual supplemental levy authorized in the amount of $400,000, which will expire this year and prior to this proposed levy.
And the 400,000, this is from Michael Keith, comes to $51 per 100,000 net taxable value. So that's the difference in those two.
Sky, can you speak louder so we can hear?
Oh,
My
sorry.
apologies. Do you want me to read that again?
Him or me, or both?
Sky, we can hear you.
Okay. Difference in 400 and 500.
Right. Yeah, that's, I remember that.
did you ask for the motion?
Yes, you have a motion.
He's pushing me.
I move that I make a motion, I move that we approve a resolution of School District 71, Boise County, Idaho, calling for a special election to be held for the purpose of submitting to the qualified electors of the district the proposition of authorizing a supplemental levy.
I second.
Of 500,000 over 2 years as at $64 per 100,000 of taxable assessed value per year.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the topic? All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion is approved. Item D, interview board candidates for Zone 1. Candidates to be interviewed are Sally Aspero and George Simpson. Am I saying that right, Aspero? Sally, would you like to go first, since that's what I've got down here first? I'm gonna bring a chair forward for you so you can sit a little closer. So
Mr. Chairman, she can
She
get
could
close
stand right there
to the
because of the
microphone there. I mean, one of the
People can hear
microphones,
it.
just so the people on the podcast can hear. I think this one here on the floor.
Yeah, I can pick her up too. Oh.
Before we begin, I need to let the board know that Ms. Sally has contacted me just to find out what she's getting into. And we did have some communication, and there was nothing really in that. I didn't let her know that she'll be interviewed at the meeting tonight, and she was not aware of that at the time of our communication, just so that the board knows that there has been communication.
all right. Well, I'll start off asking a couple of questions. Sally, can you just, we have your letter here, but just so that the public can hear, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, I grew up in Riverside, California. Um, um, Most of the vast majority of my family is in Idaho. It's been a dream of mine for a few decades to get here. Um, I have 6 children and 12 grandchildren, 2 great-grandchildren. I absolutely love children. That's why I went into the teaching profession. I formerly was a real estate agent and then a real estate broker for my parents' company for about approximately 14 years. The real estate market got kind of went down, and I decided it was time to back to college. I became a single parent of 4 at that time, and I went back to college and got 4 college degrees, 2 AAs, my bachelor's in psychology, my master's is in education. I taught for 23 years. I taught at Native American BIA school on the Saboba Indian Reservation for almost 4 years. And after that, I went to San Jacinto Unified School District in San Jacinto and taught for 16 years. Just recently retired in June of 2021. And I just absolutely love students, and I want the very best for them. I have the patience of Job as a teacher. I use all different kinds of strategies to teach my students and reach them all. I honestly believe that students, all students can learn, all students. They might learn in different various methods. That's why I utilize several different strategies. But they can, all students, I believe, truly can learn, and that is the most important thing. That's why I'm here, to me, as our students in the community. My dream came true when I found this house online and joined a lot of my Idaho family. And when I found Garden Valley, I just felt like I was dropped right into the God's land. I mean, absolutely love this community, love the people. Everyone is so kind-hearted and sweet, and I just, I'm passionate about students and their learning.
Can you tell us, as an educator of 23 years, what qualities you think you can bring to the school board that can help us with our community relations with the people in the community, and also to help create a great learning atmosphere here at the school?
Well, with all the years I taught, I interacted with not only my students in a wonderful way, but with my parents. I'm a team player, with my administrators, with other teachers. I'm a great listener, a great problem solver. I can think outside the box. I'm very passionate about students and their learning, and I want them to become lifelong learners. I'm still learning. Originally, I started out, so I got my degree in psychology. I wanted to figure everybody out. And I was going for my PhD in clinical psychology, but when I started long-term subbing, I absolutely fell in love with teaching. So obviously, I didn't go back. And I just want to help the community. I want to be a reflection of what our community, wants for our children. I want the best for our kids to go on and be successful in this world, is constantly changing.
I feel like I'm hogging all the time. Does any of the other board members have any questions that they'd like to ask?
You're an educator, but being a board member is not necessarily being an educator. A lot of times what we do is counterintuitive to what may be what an educator may think is the best thing for for the students. We have to follow policy,
Oh, of course.
which is different than, obviously, we change policy if there's a distinct advantage. But we have to do that legally, as you know. So being an educator is wonderful. Being a board member may have entirely a different need of skills or a way of looking at things. So that's just my comment.
Well, I'm a fast learner.
Any other questions?
I don't have any questions.
Thank you for your time.
All right, thank
Thank you
you.
for applying.
Thank you.
Mr. Simpson, would you like to take the hot seat? Yes, sir.
Yes.
Could you share with us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, first of all, my name's George Simpson. I've been in Garden Valley for 16 years now, and I've been a local community provider for the kids as far as sports activities, and my kids have grown up with most of the kids here. I've been involved in a lot of the other aspects of Garden Valley as far as churches and in that regards. I'm a pretty critical thinker in regards to most policy matters. I've been on the board of my subdivision for 15 years, so I've been able to work with the Roberts Rules of Order and all the other things that a board would have to deal with on a daily or monthly basis, I guess, for this board. And I'm pretty familiar with most of the community members in this town after being here for 16 years. My background is I was a tool maker, and now I'm a propane driver. So I got some other education stuff, but it's not fancy stuff. So that's
All right. Can you tell us what qualities you can bring to the board as a board trustee?
yeah. Well, I think that my ability to communicate well with people and to be able to look at both sides of a problem and analyze things and take it to that critical thinking spot where you can make a judgment based on everybody's needs, including the school's needs, the teacher's needs, and the kids' needs. I think I'm very well versed in doing that stuff already with the other things I do in my life. And I believe that that's what a board does, brings the community members, the teachers, and the students together and makes the best decisions possible for the whole group. So that's where I would think I could use my past skills plus my current abilities to help out there.
Any other questions?
I have a comment. Thank you for both of you applying. I looked at your applications, and in doing so, I realized that everybody on the board was nominated by me, including Edie, and I don't think that's a good thing. It could be misconstrued as a type of control thing, and so I want you guys to know that I will not be making a proposal for that reason. I did not realize.
No more
that.
questions from you?
No, okay. All right. And again, thank you both so much for your letters of interest and for meeting with us here today and answering our questions. Item E, discuss and possibly appoint a board member for Zone 1. Do
we have to appoint somebody?
Just so that you all know, there was a third letter that I received about 24 hours late. And so I believe the policy on that would be that if you opened it up for another 30 days, if you decided you didn't want to choose a candidate today, then that person could be considered. But
I think we have two good candidates before us
That's up to
today,
the board.
and that they got their letters in the correct amount of time, so I don't see any reason why we should not move forward.
Commenting on that, I would agree with you. We have two excellent candidates.
I mean, we've got someone who's been a community member here in Garden Valley for 16 years. We have somebody who has four degrees, 2 masters, 1 master, 2 masters, 1 master. And 23 years of in-school experience. I mean, that seems like, also, I just like to point out, Mr. Simpson's also been on several committees for the board, just since I've been on the board, at least 3 times that I'm aware of. So I think we got,
And I'd like
Great.
to make a motion. I would like to appoint for the Zone 1, George Simpson.
we have a motion. Do we have a second?
A second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on the topic? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion is approved. Mr. Simpson, my condolences. I'm just kidding.
Excitement.
And Ms. Asperl, thank you so much for your time and willingness. And I didn't want to say anything before a decision was made, but this school could definitely use you. I mean, if you enjoy being around the kids still, we're always looking for substitutes. And there's definitely many ways you can still give back to the community. We'll take you. We don't want to run you off. I can't take public comment. My apologies. I can't take public comment. My apologies.
Way forward, just clarity, at the next school board meeting, he's sworn in, if he doesn't vote.
No, once he's sworn in, he can vote.
The way we did it with
Mhm.
Mr. Murray
So
was that
remember
they
with
swore
me-
him in before the meeting.
Before
so
the
he could
meeting,
vote
so
at
that
that
he can
meeting.
vote.
Right. First meeting, he wasn't. Oh, we'll check it out before.
Okay.
Just-
You'll be sworn in at the next meeting, which will be on
We just.
February 8th. And then you can join the board at that time. On to old business. Item A, public comment and input on the back to school plan posted on our website in August. Do you have any public input on that topic? All right, and then public comment and input on use of funds plan for ARP ESSER funds. Any comment on that? All right. Well, thank you all so much for coming to this meeting tonight. Again, thank you to both of our applicants, and congratulations to Mr. George Simpson. We will see you next month where we'll swear you in. This meeting is adjourned. Our next regular school board meeting is on February 8th, 2022, at 6 p.m. What copy of
the resolution.
Oh,
The initial,
okay, yes. Anywhere?
would you need us to, do we need new copies? Is that what you're saying?
This
I need to email him.
Were we initialed
Oh,
this?
that's this one. It's that one.
But the only one left.
Chairperson.
Is it the district, is that the district clerk, like is in Boise District Court or not?
Oh, I don't know about that.
That's what I was wondering.
So this guy,
Hey, Sky,
I gotta send this to her, but she can do it on the ballot.
Right. No, I was gonna say, don't let Sky away, because you understand.
Yeah.
By the way.
and he just signed it in person.
Oh.
So they gotta go get him the copy, so he signed it. I'm almost positive.
Okay, you need a copy. If I wrote on this stuff, you need that.
I needed it to wrote on it.
Yes, that's the easy. I did have a court vote. I need to talk to you about this. I interpret this exactly the way it is.
Right, so They really need to rewrite it, 'cause it's not clear, and it's-
Well, no, it
that
isn't.
wasn't their intent, and so that is.
That's, if that's not their intent, then it needs to be rewritten, but it's
So, yeah.
clear that verification injury says that. Right. Well, no, it says verified illness and family emergencies would be excused when considering 75% participation in regular season. So that's this one. That's not the other one. Oh.
Thank you, that's my job.
Okay. Is that?
Okay.